In just 30 minutes, a giant buffalo weighing nearly a ton disappeared into the territory of 10 Komodo dragons. What caused this giant to fall so quickly, and what is the Komodo dragon's true weapon? A terrifying meal. 10 Komodo dragons tear apart a giant buffalo in 30 minutes. The Komodo Islands, Indonesia, are a land renowned for their pristine beauty and unforgiving harshness. Barren hills stretch endlessly under the vast sky, interspersed with deep blue bays and dusty trails of volcanic rock that have cooled for thousands of years. The climate here is hot and dry year-round. The scorching sun lasts, the wind blows dryly, and the ground cracks underfoot. Each day is a silent test of survival. And it was in this place, seemingly operating according to familiar rules, that a moment occurred that turned the order of survival upside down. Amidst the dark volcanic rock and sun-scorched grass, low, long, and heavy bodies lay scattered like living fragments of the landscape. These were Komodo dragons. They didn't move much. Most of the time, their bodies pressed close to the ground, their rough skin blending into the color of the rocks, revealing only their half-closed eyes. Komodo dragons lived in absolute silence. Here, hunting wasn't a chase. It was a process of observation, testing, and then waiting. In that scene, a movement broke the stillness. A giant buffalo emerged from the edge of the sparse forest, like a heavy weight entering a landscape accustomed to caution. Its massive body, thick, dark skin, each step slow but steady, enough to make the ground tremble slightly beneath its hooves. In other lands, the presence of a buffalo would be a warning. Few predators would be daring enough to test their strength against such an opponent. But Komodo dragons don't measure their opponents that way. Their eyes, low to the ground, silently observe the breathing, gait, and the subtle signs of fatigue the heat leaves on another's body. And as the buffalo continues deeper into the land, a question begins to form, slowly, heavily, like the sun itself covering the island. Can a giant stand against the island's notorious predator? Let's continue watching and await the answer. In the first few minutes, nothing unusual happened. The buffalo remained standing in the dry grassland, its massive body casting a shadow on the cracked ground. It was the moment it paused longer than usual that was noticed. A Komodo dragon detached itself from the ground. Movement was slow, low, and silent. The distance shortened meter by meter. The bite was so quick it was imperceptible. The curved teeth sank deep into the tender flesh before releasing instantly. The buffalo reacted violently, but its body began to lose strength without it even realizing it. Time passed in silence. And when that enormous body collapsed, the wait was over. Komodo dragons swarmed in from all directions. They attacked the exposed weak points. Within 30 minutes, a nearly 1-ton creature was dragged down, torn apart, and vanished into the territory of 10 ancient rulers. The sun began to set. The dragons had dispersed. All that remained of the giant buffalo were a few bone fragments and the pungent smell of blood in the air. A question suddenly crossed my mind. What was the weapon that allowed the Komodo dragon to close every hunt, even against a giant? At first glance, the defeat of the enormous buffalo seemed to stem from overwhelming numbers. But the cruel truth was far more brutal. The outcome was sealed with the first bite. Komodo dragons don't kill their prey with mere jaw strength. What prevents the prey from escaping lies in their saliva. Inside it is a complex mixture of toxic proteins that directly affect the circulatory system. The blood begins to fail to clot, blood pressure drops rapidly, and the body goes into physiological shock, even though the initial wound isn't large. The prey doesn't die immediately, but it also loses the ability to recover. Strength, once its greatest advantage, begins to backfire, because the larger the body, the faster it loses energy under the extreme heat. Meanwhile, the Komodo dragon suffers almost no loss of energy. They lie still, letting time do the hunting work. Each passing minute tilts the scales of survival further in their favor. And there's another factor that makes the prey's chances of survival almost zero. Komodo dragons don't need to hunt in organized packs. but they naturally gather when the smell of blood spreads in the air. Individuals nearby will appear, not to coordinate tactics, but to ensure the prey has no room to recover or escape. Each additional bite isn't intended to finish the job. It only accelerates the process of collapse. In the world of Komodo dragons, victory doesn't come in a moment. It comes from irreversibility. And that's why, once bitten, even the giant has no escape, only a single, slow path leading to a predetermined end. But as the giant's carcass gradually disappeared, a strange atmosphere began to envelop it. Satisfaction brought no peace. On the contrary, the smell of blood and the intense exhilaration awakened another brutal instinct: power. Amidst the frenzied thrashing of the carcass, a colossal male dragon, ruler of the valley, with long scars on its rough skin, suddenly stopped. It didn't look at the buffalo, but directly at a young fellow vying for the best piece of prey. In the world of Komodo dragons, there is no concept of sharing, only submission or death. Unexpectedly, both monsters stood upright on their hind legs, using their tails as a pivot like ancient sumo wrestlers. Two massive masses of muscle, weighing hundreds of pounds, clashed together with a dry, grating sound. They snarled, using their razor-sharp claws to dig deep into each other's armored hide. Volcanic dust billowed, obscuring the setting sun, leaving only menacing hissing sounds echoing through the desolate wilderness. This was no longer a meal. This was a battle to determine dominance. A fatal blow pinned the younger dragon to the cracked ground. In that moment, the victor didn't finish off its opponent with venomous fangs, but with a cold gaze, asserting its absolute dominance at the pinnacle of survival. The defeated, its body covered in blood, fled into the bushes, leaving the sole king standing alone. The island returned to its chilling silence. A ton of meat had vanished, a battle had ended, but the rules of Komodo remained, harsh and unchanging. Here, you not only have to fight to hunt, but also to avoid being hunted. Muscle strength or deadly patience, which will terrify you most about this dragon? The story of these ancient rulers still holds many mysteries waiting to be discovered. Don't forget to subscribe to avoid missing the most dramatic footage of the wild world. In the vast Sahara, a red sun hangs in a cloudless sky. In the scorching heat, two predators share the same territory. One relies on intelligence and speed. The other relies on deadly venom. And when these two creatures meet, only one can survive. Sahara Wild. Deadly showdown between the fennec fox and the viper. The sun hangs in the white sky, pouring fire onto the vast sand sea of the Sahara. The space vibrates with heat, making the ground blur like a shimmering mirage. In the distance, the sand stretches to the horizon, barren, endless, and eerily silent. Not a tree, not a drop of water, only light and heat tearing the atmosphere. The sound of the wind mixed with the sound of falling sand, creating a dry melody of nature, where life only exists on the border of death. On the burning sand, small footprints were left and quickly erased by the wind. A land that seemed dead, but underneath that layer of sand, small creatures were still breathing, waiting for the right moment to step out. Here, every breath, every step, was a bet with death. In the world of sand and fire, the fennec fox appeared small and slender, but carried within it the most resilient survival instinct of the Sahara. Its body was just over 40 centimeters long, weighed less than 2 kilograms, but its giant ears were almost half the length of its body. Those ears were a great weapon that helped it hear the smallest sound of insects moving under the sand, or the heartbeat of a mouse hiding deep underground. Its pale yellow fur, like the morning sun, reflects heat, providing it with perfect camouflage in the hot sea of sand. Its small furry feet allow it to run on sand hotter than 70 degrees Celsius without getting burned, as if the desert was created specifically to test and train this creature. The fennec fox is a smart predator rather than a reckless one. It does not attack head-on, but observes, waits for the right moment, then launches a lightning-fast leap. A small animal, but in each of its bright eyes is wisdom, patience, and a will to survive stronger than a sandstorm. The sun gradually sets in the west, the sunlight slanting over the golden sand dunes like burning fire. The space is so quiet that you can hear the wind blowing through each small grain of sand. In the midst of that dry scene, the fennec fox is moving slowly, its large ears perked high, constantly scanning the ground. It stopped, a tiny sound echoing through the sand. The Saharan viper slithered out, head raised, its forked tongue vibrating in the air. The two creatures stood only a few feet apart, both motionless. And then, the fight broke out. The snake struggled, its tail lashing the sand, but after a few seconds, the movement gradually weakened. The fennec fox squeezed one last time, then let go. The fennec panted, ears still raised, alert because in the Sahara, victory is never safe. It slowly walked away towards the setting sun. Behind it, the wind rose, erasing all traces. Only the waves of sand and the echoes of a battle where a small mind had defeated death. As the sun set, the last wind of the day blew, leaving the desert in a blood-red sunset. The sand began to cool, and from the dry earth, another creature arose, the desert owl. In the arid Sahara, where most creatures are nocturnal, the desert cave owl is one of the rare birds that chooses to live underground, where the light does not reach, but life still exists quietly. Its body is compact, only about 20 to 25 centimeters tall, weighing less than 200 grams, but is extremely flexible. Its unusually long legs, compared to other owls, allow it to run on the sand and stalk prey right on the ground instead of just swooping down from above. The sandy brown fur with white spots helps it blend perfectly into the environment, almost invisible under the moonlight. The bright yellow eyes, large and round, reflect the nightlight like two burning amber. Just by turning its head, it can observe nearly 360 degrees, not missing any movement. That is why the cave owl is considered the living radar of the Saharan night. Unlike owls that usually hunt with their wings, the cave owl hunts with its feet. It can run fast on the sand, then suddenly jump, pouncing on its prey in a short and absolutely precise swoop. Its menu includes scorpions, locusts, jerboa mice, small snakes, young lizards, and even insects that fennec foxes hunt. Therefore, territorial conflicts sometimes occur between owls and foxes, even though they live in different layers of the desert. When encountering an enemy, the cave owl will imitate the rattlesnake's call to scare and protect its nest. The dry hissing sound coming from its mouth makes many predators think that there is a real poisonous snake in the cave. The desert cave owl is not big, not strong, nor does it carry venom. But it is its intelligence, patience, and absolute adaptability that helps it survive in one of the harshest environments on the planet. When the light gradually fades, the cave owl's call echoes in the wind, like the breath of life creeping between darkness and death. The Saharan dawn does not come gently, but explodes like a fire spreading across the horizon. In just a few minutes, the sky changes from deep blue to dazzling white, then golden like molten metal. The giant sand dunes begin to reflect light, emitting a hazy heat like columns of smoke rising from the ground. The creatures of the night quietly retreat into the sand, leaving the world to those who live in the harsh light. On the scorching ground, every small movement becomes a game of death, where every step is illuminated by the sun. No sound, no trace, only a long, thin shadow crawling on the sand, rushing as fast as the wind. That is the desert spider, also known as the camel spider, a creature that even other predators must be wary of. In the fiery world of the Sahara, the camel spider is a creature that lives on the border of evolution. Not quite a spider, not quite a scorpion. It belongs to the order Solifugae, a group of arthropods that are unique to dry desert regions. Its body is on average 10 to 15 centimeters long and can reach 20 centimeters in large individuals. The body is divided into two distinct parts, the cephalothorax and the abdomen, covered with fine golden brown hairs that reflect heat and camouflage perfectly in the sand. Four pairs of long, flexible legs like springs, allowing it to run at speeds of up to 16 kilometers per hour, faster than many reptiles. The front jaws are the most terrible weapon. Half the size of the body can bite through the armor of scorpions or cut the small bones of young lizards. The small black eyes on the top of the head, although poor vision, are supported by hundreds of sensory hairs around the body, allowing it to see by vibration. The camel spider is not venomous, but in return, it is an extremely fast, ruthless predator with an outstanding bite. It hides under the sand during the day to avoid temperatures exceeding 60 degrees Celsius, only emerging at night. When it senses warmth or the slightest movement within a few meters, it rushes in like a living arrow, locking onto its prey with its giant jaws. After taking down its opponent, the camel spider secretes digestive juices, dissolving the flesh just outside the prey's body, then sucking the juices out, a cold but absolutely effective hunting method. Its menu includes young scorpions, small lizards, baby snakes, insects, jerboa rats, and even its own kind. In the desert, it is not picky about its food. As long as it moves, it will attack. Although it is a killer of the Sahara night, the camel spider is still preyed on by larger species. Desert cave owls, fennec foxes, large lizards, venomous snakes, and snake eagles can all hunt it. In the harsh food chain of the Sahara, the camel spider plays the role of a balancer, controlling the population of insects and small creatures, and at the same time becoming a source of nutrition for other carnivores. Each of its footsteps leaves a faint imprint on the sand, a trace of its silent but indispensable existence in the spiral of survival. In the middle of the dry, cracked sand of the Sahara, the sunlight continues to spread over the vast sand sea. The heat begins to rise from the ground again. In the middle of that seemingly empty scene, a gentle movement appears, very small, very fast, like the heartbeat of the desert reviving. From under the layer of sand hotter than 50 degrees Celsius, a slender figure begins to rise, the sidewinder snake, a snake known as the master hunter of the desert. Its body does not slither straight like normal snakes, but bends into a tilted S shape, lifting two parts of its body off the ground, while the middle part slides forward. This movement helps it reduce contact with the hot sand, leaving only a series of characteristic diagonal zigzag marks, like mysterious symbols engraved on the desert surface. It is not just an adaptation, but an evolutionary masterpiece. Thanks to this way of slithering, Sidewinder can move at speeds of up to 29 kilometers per hour, becoming the fastest snake on the sand. The sun is high in the sky. The sunlight is so hot that the sand surface vibrates in an illusion, making everything seem to be melting. The space is completely silent, only the sound of hot wind whistling through the dry and endless sand dunes. In the seemingly dead land, a slight movement breaks the silence. Not far away, a desert gecko lizard is moving. The gecko is agile, its round eyes reflecting the sunlight, scanning the surroundings for insects. Each fine grain of sand slides down. Then a small head pops up. The cold, pale yellow eyes of the sidewinder snake appear. It lay half hidden, half visible under the sand, its body curled around, only its head exposed, like a perfect biological trap waiting for its prey to stumble. The whole desert seemed to hold its breath. Then, a lightning bite. The sand fell back, the wind blew, and everything returned to silence. Only Sidewinder remained, its body circling slowly around its prey, its mouth opening to swallow each piece, the sunlight reflecting on its silvery scales like molten metal. The sun gradually set in the west, a red light covering the sand like the last flame of the day. Sidewinder lay curled up in the middle of the dunes, its body merging with the yellow ground, silent as if it had never existed. There were no traces of the hunt, only zigzags imprinted on the sand, like the signature of death left in the Sahara Sea of fire. In a place without water, without shade, only sand and fire, Sidewinder still lived, still hunted, still existed. Because in this harsh world, those who can adapt not only survive, but also become legends. In this endless sea of sand, every living creature fights not to dominate, but to continue to exist. And when night falls, the sound of the wind rises like the Sahara's extended music, a symphony of sand, wind, and life that never stops. In the midst of sand and fire, life exists only by instinct. In your opinion, what helps creatures survive in the Sahara? Leave a comment below the video. And don't forget to ring the bell and subscribe so you don't miss the next wildlife survival series. In Africa, water is life. In the scorching sun, the journey to find the source of life begins. Here, nature and bloodthirsty people spread cruelty together. The invincible Cape buffalo, the tragedy of the deadly waters. The Kenyan sun hangs in the white sky. The air is thick with heat, and every breeze that blows carries the acrid smell of burnt grass. The dry season has come earlier than every year, a dry season that is harsher and more cruel. The last puddles have disappeared, leaving only cracked mud and old footprints deep in the ground. The herds of antelope, zebras, and even migratory birds have left, leaving behind an endless sea of dead grass. The savanna is now like a furnace, where every breath carries the taste of dust and ash. In the midst of the arid landscape, the Cape buffalo herd began to move again. The herd formed a long line, dragging heavy steps across the scorching red soil. Heads bowed low, horns lowered to level, their massive bodies casting long shadows on the cracked ground. With each step, dust rose up, mixing with the hazy air like red mist from fire. In the middle of the herd, Syra and her calf walked steadily. The little one was stronger, her feet steady in the hot sand, following her mother's every step. There was no sound of running water, no shade, only heat, red dust, and survival instinct to guide the way. In the land where life was tested to the extreme, the Cape buffalo herd set out again. Their journey to find a source of life in the desert of drought was beginning. In the hot noon, the sun hung overhead, pouring fire on the sea of burnt yellow grass. The Cape buffalo herd continued their endless journey, each step heavy on the dry grass. No one spoke. There was only the panting, the sound of hooves hitting rocks, and the breathing of hundreds of giant bodies moving as one. The Cape buffalo herd continued northward, where the river had dried up, leaving only a few small muddy puddles. It was the last lifeline left after weeks without rain. Between thirst and fatigue, the instinct for dominance rose, making even the strongest individuals become impatient. They fought over the scarce food source. The older, larger male leader stopped. He did not turn his head, only lowered his horns. The whole herd stood still. Mist hung in the sun, surrounding the two massive bodies that were about to confront each other. Suddenly, the two giants charged at each other. In the world of Cape Buffalo, strength is the only language to maintain order. When exhaustion caused one to fall to its knees, the other stopped, not finishing. Order was restored in silence. After the chaos, the herd tightened its formation, each giant body merging into a unified mass. And in that red sunset, the true strength of the Cape Buffalo was not in its horns, nor in its muscles, but in the spirit of unity that helped it overcome all thirst, all predators, and even its own instinct to divide. After many days of moving, the steppe gradually changed. The dry grass burned to a yellow color. This was a dead land where even the wind carried the scent of destruction. The Cape Buffalo herd continued to move, slow and exhausted. Each breath emitted a dry red dust. They had survived the war for water, but now they faced another enemy, hunger and exhaustion. But the dead zone was never empty. On the top of the distant mound, low, lean black figures moved against the wind. Pointed ears, glowing yellow eyes, slender bodies but supple muscles. They are African wild dogs, the most intelligent predators on the savanna. They have a slim body, long legs, large, round ears like biological radar, constantly rotating to catch the slightest sound in the wind. Their mottled coat with black, yellow, and white patches is unique to each individual, like fingerprints that nature has carved for each individual. Their teeth are so strong that they can crush bones, and once they have discovered a target, silence becomes the most dangerous weapon. Unlike lions, a solitary and noisy predator, wild dogs hunt in packs, operating like a perfectly programmed army. When one detects a trail, the whole pack immediately moves in formation, splits directions, surrounds, and exhausts the prey with ruthless persistence. Their hunting success rate is up to 80% higher than any other predator in Africa. Now, they are watching the exhausted giants in the sea of dead grass. Their eyes glowed a bright yellow in the sun, their ears stood straight, their bodies lowered, moving in a circle around the buffalo herd. No barks, no roars, just the steady breathing and the cold, steely gazes of the steppe warriors. The buffalo herd began to sense something was wrong. A brutal attack broke out on the dead land. And then, the wild dogs had hunted successfully. They immediately surrounded the spoils, their eyes glowing a bright yellow in the fading sunset. On the dead land, the weak became food for the strong, as the steppe had done for thousands of years. The sunset closed in the red of dust and blood. In the distance, the buffalo herd continued its journey in silence, leaving behind the hunters' roaring laughter, a cold reminder that, on this steppe, life only belonged to those strong enough to continue walking. The air was so thick with heat that the sky seemed to tremble, the ground blurred in an illusion. The Cape buffalo herd continued to march through the barren land, where all signs of life had disappeared. The grass was scorched, the earth cracked into large patches. The cracks were like a giant network of wounds on the steppe. Every step was a challenge. The leading males breathed heavily, their shoulders shaking with each dry breath. Flocks of vultures began to appear above, circling slowly. They knew that life was fading below. It was a primal thirst, something that could make any creature collapse before the predator could reach it. In the distance, the ground shimmered like a mirage of water. A few young buffalo lowered their heads, running in that direction in desperation. And then, ahead in the hazy heat, a silvery strip of water appeared. The faint sound of running water echoed in the wind, small, but enough to make the whole herd roar with joy. Hope that had seemed to have dried up suddenly revived. The herd sped up. Hundreds of giant bodies rushed towards the riverbank, where the water surface glittered with the golden light of the afternoon sun. The first ones dipped their mouths down to drink, the sound of inhaling water resounding like the breath of life returning after a death throes. Each drop of water mixed with their cracked skin, driving away the heat that was burning the steppe. Thirst made them forget all vigilance. The giant bodies began to move down the riverbank, each heavy step sinking deeper into the thick mud. They did not know that, below the surface of the water, life and death were only a breath apart. Under the still water, another world was stirring. Small ripples spread out, seemingly caused by the wind, but it was a sign of ancient shadows rising. In the deep river, pale yellow eyes opened slightly, glittering like steel heated in the sunlight. The prehistoric warriors had awakened. It is the Nile crocodile, an ancient predator that has dominated African waters for more than 200 million years. They are living fossils, virtually unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs, born to hunt, to wait, and to kill. The crocodile's body is a perfect combination of strength and stealth. Its back is covered with thick, armor-like bony scales that absorb sunlight during the day to retain heat at night. The eyes and nostrils are located on top of its head, allowing it to hide its entire body underwater, revealing only the smallest part to observe the world above. Their jaw muscles have a bite force of more than 2,000 kilograms per square centimeter, enough to crush buffalo bones or turtle shells in just one bite. The tail is long and strong like a whip, helping it accelerate through the water at speeds of up to 30 kilometers per hour, faster than any creature that dares to enter this river area. Crocodiles do not need to chase their prey. They hide in silence, blending into the water, turning their own bodies into part of the river. Then, in just a moment, all their power is released. A plunge, a whirl, and life above the water is over. Now, As the Cape Buffalo herd approached the riverbank, they had no idea that the underwater rulers had awakened. Each crocodile opened its eyes slightly, its icy gaze reflecting the sunlight, slowly moving towards the shallow water where the mud smelled of blood and sweat. There was no sound. Only small ripples were spreading, like the breath of death about to rise to the surface of the water. The space was suffocating. Thirst erased all vigilance. Each bowed its head to drink, its lips lightly touching the murky brown water. And then the water exploded. On the surface, the young buffalo struggled desperately. The crocodiles tightened their grip, pulling their prey deeper, turning the entire stretch of river into a whirlpool of blood and white foam. The river's surface gradually returned to silence, only the sound of the wind whistling through the dry grass. The pale red ripples still spread out, slowly and coldly, as if the water was erasing all traces of the massacre that had just occurred. The herd retreated from the riverbank, eyes still fixed on the silent water. The deep roar echoed in the wind, both a lament and a warning. Below the water, the golden eyes closed again, waiting for the next prey. Syra stood still on the bank, her deep eyes watching the river where her calf had just disappeared. No more roars, no more resistance, only the heavy breathing of a mother who had just lost a part of her own soul. All around, the herd remained silent. The Cape buffalo did not leave immediately. They stopped around the riverbank. Their heavy breathing emitted wisps of smoke in the hot air. No noise, no roaring, only silence. A soundless ritual of the wild world. Cape buffalo are the most social of the large herbivores in Africa. They live in tightly knit herds where each individual is part of a unified whole. When one falls, the herd does not leave immediately. They often turn around, standing silently around the body of their fellow, as if remembering. Wordless, but it is the herd's way of sharing the loss, a primitive gesture, but full of emotion. The time to leave has come. One by one, they turn around. The herd continues its journey, slowly but surely. On the steppe, pain does not make them stop, but makes them more attached, more persistent. Because where life and death intertwine, solidarity is the only way to survive. Waiting for the next, when the rains return, the steppe will revive. Along with life, the predators are also rising. Don't forget to ring the bell, subscribe so you don't miss the next wildlife survival series.